Hey, what's going on? It's the Deja Vu show. You know how we do, playing all of your music, and then we bring in the dope celebrities. Today, we have one like no other, Mr. Billy Porter.
Hi.
Hi, Billy.
Hello.
Hi. And look, we're matching. Ow. Wait, Shimmer, you got to shake a little.
And we didn't even plan it.
We didn't even plan it, boo. That's great minds, right? The little synchronicity.
Yes.
So, Billy,
Yes.
you are on your Black Mona Lisa tour, right?
Yes, I'm getting ready to go out.
Talk to us about this. I just heard Baby was a dancer. First off, when I played it, I was in the studio and somebody else was like, oh, this is good. This beat is good. And it kind of hits with the vibe
Infectious.
of spring.
Yes.
So talk to us about that.
Yeah, so Black Mona Lisa is the name of the album. The tour is the Black Mona Lisa Tour Volume 1. I've been in this business a long time.
So I found out. We're going to dig into that in a minute, but go ahead.
My first R&B album came out on A&M Records in 1997.
He said A&M. If y'all know nothing about A&M, baby!
It was a big deal. And the industry was very homophobic at the time. And so it didn't work out for me.
Right.
You know, blessedly, I had other areas that I could thrive in, and I did. And now I'm back in this space, in this mainstream music space, on my own terms. And so Black Mona Lisa, the album is a culmination of everything that I've ever wanted to say to the world through my music.
What did you say in that first album? What was that music like then?
That music was R&B, 90s R&B.
Yeah.
And there was the assignment to be masculine.
They told you?
To be perceived as masculine
Wow.
enough. And nothing I did was masculine enough for anybody.
Wow.
It was so traumatic. I remember a story about I was getting ready to go on the Rosie O'Donnell show, and there were, and she was my friend because we had done the revival of Grease.
Yes.
In 1994. So
yeah.
I was on her show a lot before my record deal. And so now I'm back on the show with my record deal, and people are bubbling in the room, and one of the record executives was like, well, don't talk, don't speak. I mean, try not to talk too much. Like, wow. And it was like, even the way I talked was too gay.
But if they knew this from the outset, they knew who you were, they understood the talent, what's the problem?
Well, you're young.
Am I?
That was 1994.
Yeah.
That was 1997. It's a new day.
Yeah.
There was not a space for anything that looked like me at that time. Sylvester had died in 88. AIDS ravished the queer community.
Right.
Disco was the cause. People burned their albums.
Right. They had the whole
it's like,
yeah.
So, we were in the middle of the AIDS crisis. AIDS was God's punishment as far as many folks in the world were concerned. So, the drug came out in 96. That's a year before my first album. So like, it just wasn't time.
Right.
Blessedly, I'm grateful that I lived long enough to see this day, where I can sit in the fullness of my authenticity.
Of who you are. And be.
And just be.
And just be.
Yeah.
All right, well, let's take it back. Pittsburgh, we were talking, you were from Pittsburgh.
Yes.
When did you develop your gift, or when did you find out you could sing, act? When was that?
Okay, so the gift from God is the singing voice.
Okay.
I started singing in church when I was 5.
Wow.
I entered the talent show in the 5th grade, and I was bullied every day. Every single day, I was relentlessly bullied because I was a sissy. I sang at that talent show, and the bullying stopped.
What?
And I was like, there might be some power in this. And then I went to middle school, and I was introduced to musical theater. and I got bit by the bug. And that same year, I saw Jennifer Holliday in the cast of Dreamgirls on the Tony Awards. And she sang, "And I'm telling you, I'm not going," and I am telling you, the ubiquitous.
Okay.
And I was forever changed. And I always talk about art as my healer. Art has the power to heal trauma. I've been using it in that way my whole life. And I'm just, I don't know. That's where I started, and that's when I knew. And I just worked hard to sort of have this be the catalyst for me to be able, have my voice be the catalyst for me to be able to dream beyond my circumstance.
Right. And I saw that you actually launched on Star Search?
Star Search. Well,
and what?
I was on Star Search, 1992.
I did not know that.
Yes.
Look at that factoid. What?
Yes.
I have to go back. Is there footage on YouTube? I got to go back
There
and
is
get the
footage
clip.
on YouTube.
I got to get the clip. I just saw
I think
the
somebody
stats.
put it up.
Really?
Somebody put it up, yeah. I don't know where it came from, but somebody put it up. It's up there now.
That is amazing. Now, would you want to, since you've already gone through that kind of thing, would you want to be like a judge on one of those
I would
panel
love to be a
shows?
judge on one of those shows.
Okay,
because
American Idol. Okay, X
because
Factor.
I actually know what to say.
Right.
And know how to coach people. Because I'm a teacher as well. I'm a professor, adjunct professor at my alma mater, Carnegie Mellon. And I teach voice and I teach song interpretation. And
Teach me to sing. Hold on. Me. Am I a star? I don't have nothing to work with.
I don't know yet.
Come on, Billy.
We have to have a private session.
All right, fine. But no.
So
okay.
I can assess.
So you can assess, darling. All right. So we started. You're doing your singing and everything. After school, you leave. Do you come to New York and say, "I'm going to make it on the Great White Way"?
So the second semester of my senior year, because I had spent my summers here in New York. And so getting to learn, and like buying Backstage magazine and going to auditions every day and just trying to get into the groove of what it would be like when I moved here. And so I auditioned for a little show called Miss Saigon.
You might have heard of it.
Heard of that. And so by the second semester of my senior year, I had booked the original cast of Miss Saigon. So I moved here on December 27th, 1990. To start rehearsals for the original cast of Miss Saigon on January 11th.
Wow.
And I got credit as a paid internship, so I was able to graduate and get my degree as well.
That's beautiful.
So that's how I started in the business.
beautiful.
Yeah, it was wonderful.
All right, and so what happens in between all of that? Because it seems like, okay, I looked at your stats, your resume. You've been working and working. Kinky Boots came along in what, 2013?
Yes.
And then after that, it just seems like everything was Billy Porter. We've seen you, the outfits. I mean, like, it's like that.
Right. It's a 30-year overnight success. Yeah, I did Broadway and my first record contract simultaneously in the 90s.
So you came along and just got busy.
Yeah, I was in Miss Saigon, and then my second show was Five Guys Named Mo. My third show was Grease, the revival of Grease with Rosie O'Donnell, and then unknown Megan Mullally before Will and Grace. And then I did a show called Smokey Joe's Cafe around the same time that my album came out, 97. And then everything sort of imploded at the turn of the century, I like to say. Sounds very important. But like in 99, it was like I wasn't happy with where I saw the trajectory of my career going. I didn't like what I saw in my future. And I knew that.
What did you see?
Well, in my book, Unprotected, I call it the Millennium Coon Show.
Which encompasses what?
I was being used.
By the industry or by friends?
I was being used by the industry to come in and stop your show. I had that power. I have that power to come in and stop a show cold. And yet, there were no real roles for me. there were no human beings for me to play to connect to that show-stopping situation. So, case in point, Grease. Amazing opportunity. The balance of it was hard for me because they had me prancing around in 14 inches of orange rubber hair and a white spacesuit like a Little Richard automaton on crack.
Lord.
Simultaneously, it was very good for me because it got me in front of,
Right.
you know, it got my name
And it was
in
paying the
people's,
bills.
and it was paying the bills, and it got my name in people's mouths. So had I continued on that road, that's what it would have continued to be. And so when I stopped, took stock, and demanded to be seen as a three-dimensional human being, the work dried up.
Wow.
And the work dried up for about a decade. So if you look at my career, you see everything in the 90s, and then in 2000, it gets real sparse. And from 2000 to around 2010, it was very sparse. I was working a lot in the back. I went to graduate school in the screenwriting program at UCLA.
But you
I
did
started
a one-man show and everything too.
I started directing. I started writing. I did my one-man show at the Public Theater. I did a residency down there, Ghetto Superstar. I did that, so I was working, and I wasn't working in the mainstream.
Okay.
I didn't do a Broadway show for
10 years?
13. The last Broadway show I did, I went back to Miss Saigon in '99 to play the role of John. I did not make it back to Broadway till 2013 with Kinky Boots.
And when did that come about? How did it come about? Because you originated this character that has gone
it
on.
was announced. And, I was in the come up at that point. Again, because I had, I spoke into the universe what I wanted, and I did the work to get it. I did the work to have that manifestation happen.
Right.
So, my return to the New York stage was in a play by Tony Kushner called Angels in America. And so the revival of that sort of reminded people that I was here.
There's Billy.
But it was in a play, a three-dimensional character. The only queer black character written for the theater prior to that. Yeah, prior, that was the only one at that time that was written in the theater that was mainstream. Jeffrey Wright originated the role on Broadway and did it for the HBO special and won the Tony and the Emmy. Both times. It was in 2 parts, 7-hour epic about the AIDS crisis, blah, 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 all of that stuff. Yeah. So, oh God, I lost the question.
No, we were just going, how did you find out about Kinky
Right.
Boots?
So while I was doing that, the announcement came that Cyndi Lauper and Harvey Fierstein were writing Kinky Boots, and a friend of mine, an old friend of mine, was going to be the director choreographer. And so I had seen Kinky Boots in the movie theater with Chiwetel Ejiofor, Chewy as the people call him in London. And I remember watching it and going, that. I do that.
When you were saying,
That's
I
what
would have
I
worked
do.
it like this, I could have done it.
No, I was able to look at it and go, that is the kind of role I'm looking for.
Yeah.
That's what I do. And there wasn't a lot of it, and it wasn't a queer role. He was a man, straight man, in drag. Apparently that's illegal now in some places here in America.
Listen.
I'm sorry, I didn't mean to go there.
No,
But,
go there. Because we need to talk about it.
So I knew the piece when it was announced. And something in my spirit knew that it was going to be me.
Wow.
Because I knew that I had taken the steps, right? I went the road less traveled.
Talk about it.
So that I would be prepared for the moment that showed up for me. Right?
Like that.
Because I chose myself and because I asked the universe for something specific, It came.
It came.
You know, there's never been anybody like Lola on a Broadway stage. You know, and
when you auditioned, did you just did they know it was you?
No, they made me jump through hoops of fire. You know, because interestingly enough, for that decade that I wasn't working in the mainstream Broadway theater, I got severe acid reflux. And for the first time in my life, I couldn't sing consistently. I lost my voice for years.
Wow.
The consistency of it. I could sing sometimes, I couldn't sing other times. Like, it was weird.
Right.
And it was interesting because I asked the universe to be seen for more than my voice. But
that's when you have to be careful what you put out there.
But I asked to be, Lord, I want people to know that I am more than my voice. And I was too afraid to not take the work. So I lost my voice altogether. Wow. And had to sit in that request. And I knew it immediately. I was like, okay, Lord, I got you. Yep. You know, because I'm still taking the jobs.
Right.
That I shouldn't be taking. You know, based on the request that I've asked.
Right.
For. You know, so the universe made it so that I couldn't do those gigs anyway. And so I spent a whole decade with myself. And I came out of that, and everybody knew that I had had problems vocally.
Right.
So everybody was questioning.
Whether you could handle it.
Can he do it?
8 shows a night, a week.
Is it sustainable? Never mind that, like, my reputation, and never mind that. And so they made me jump through hoops of fire. I did. I had no problem with it. I booked the gig, and I stayed for 3 years to shut everybody down.
Right.
I missed 11 shows in 3 years.
And people don't understand. Broadway is grueling.
8 shows a week.
8 shows a week.
2 shows on Wednesday, 2 shows on Saturday. I did it for 3 years to shut everybody down.
Wow.
Yes, I do, and I can.
And he can. And it still is. So Kinky Boots launched a whole new wave for Porter.
Yeah, and it wasn't quick or linear. But there was 2013, and then there was 2017, and Pose
now
kind
fast
of
forward
fell
to
out of the
that.
sky.
Yeah, so
it just fell out of the sky. Pose fell out of the sky.
Pose fell out of the sky, but it shifted. I mean, you saw everything happening. You said back in the 90s it was just very homophobic, not allowing yourself to be who you truly were. What do you think was the catalyst in the movement for this? And now it's just everywhere. People are open and talking about homosexuality, talking about gender and identity.
Rights and trans rights.
Yes.
Yeah. I think what I've been saying this whole time with this sort of collective trauma that we're living in right now, the change has already happened.
What change?
The change. I'm sitting in front of you in a caftan. And Rick Owens pumps.
Come on now.
And 1 award away from an EGOT and a Hollywood.
You didn't let me say it because you are killing the game.
And a star on the Hollywood Walk of Fame. That was not possible when I started in this business. The change has already happened, y'all.
Yes.
You know, it's like I've lived through it.
Yeah.
So I don't know. Pose was in line with that change happening. And we had an ally, Stephen Canals, who created the show, had an ally in Ryan Murphy. And this is what allyship looks like.
And Ryan Murphy is known for Glee, right?
American Horror Story.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
You know.
So he had all these hits, all this stuff backing him up during this time period. Then he decides and he hooks up with...
He's the white queer... He's one of the white queer... gatekeepers, you know, in the business. Yeah. And, you know, white people always get their opportunity first. And then they do. Let's just say it.
Let's say
the white folks the white queens were running Hollywood. Will and Grace was all white.
That is true.
You know, the white people do it first, and then they might let us in. So I kicked the door down, but you know, but Ryan is the personification of what a true ally looks like. Because he looked at this material, he looked at Stephen Canals, and he said, okay, this story of these black and brown queer people in the 80s living through the AIDS crisis in the ball culture needs to be seen. And it's only going to happen if I co-sign on it. And he went to FX and said, you're going to do this show. You're going to give me the same budget that you gave. You're going to give me the same promotional budget that you gave me for the OJ story.
Right.
And you're going to make sure we get 3 seasons. Because it's going to take time to find the audience. And it's an important story. And you have to do it. And FX said yes. And that's how it happened.
And it shifted.
And it shifted everything.
Culture. Yes, it shifted
you know,
everything.
and what Ryan has done is not only did he create that space for all of us, he created Pose, who had 5 transgender women of color in the leads.
That was never done.
Never.
Never heard of.
White or black.
Right.
Or any other. Like, he did that for us. And then he assembled the team. He wasn't arrogant enough to think that he could do it himself.
Right.
He went and got the dolls, the consultants, the people from the real ballroom world to come in and do it. So I always say he taught us how to fish. You know that phrase?
Yes.
It's like, don't give him the
Don't
food.
give it
teach
to him,
us,
teach him how- and
he
you'll
taught
always be
us
able to do it.
all how to fish. And he ushered all of us in to this space, this mainstream space that was not possible, particularly for queer people of color before that.
So, in the middle of Pose, what did you notice? What was that defining moment that was like, yo, this is it for me. I'm on my next wave right now.
You know, actually getting the job.
Because you said it fell from the sky. How did that come
Yeah,
about?
well, it just, I got a call one day.
And they said, we want you to play this
Right?
character?
No, Ryan Murphy wants to see you for this show. It's about the ball culture. And I was like, oh my God. Like, I'd been waiting for my television opportunity. It wasn't happening. You know, I was not having a good time, you know, and, you know, I would audition for things and, you know, first of all, I couldn't get seen for anything unless the description of the character said flamboyantly ... And then I'd go in and I wouldn't get it. And the feedback would be, oh, he's too flamboyant. And then they'd cast a straight person in the part.
Wow.
Like for decades, this would happen. So I had all but given up in the TV and film space. And the call came. I was like, just like Kinky Boots, I was like, okay, this is it. And the role had not been written.
Oh, really?
No. When I went in, for those of you who've seen the show, there's a dance teacher that Charlene Woodard ended up playing. That's who I was auditioning for. And I went into Alexa Fogel, the casting director, and I did the audition, and then I said, and at this point I had had the Tony and the Grammy, so I could speak for myself without it coming across as arrogant or...
You had something to back it up with.
Right, like I basically said, I don't think this is the right part for me. And I lived through this. And I feel like I need to be in that world, right? And that's when she told me that Ryan was going to have 5 transgender women as the mothers of the houses of and all of that. And I said, but you're going to need like a grown-up over there too, right? Like somebody who lived through it. And he's like, you're right. And so they called me back for the MC. And in the script, it was just MC. And I got like 17 pages of declarations. By declarations, I mean, the category is blah, 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 blah. The category, you know, and that's, and then the reading of people and their, you know, and their outfits. And there was no scene work because he was just
an MC.
An MC. So I came in for the final callback, the screen test, whatever, and everybody was in the room. And so I did it. I did all the declarations. Everybody was on the ground. Everybody was laughing. And then he said, and Ryan Murphy was there, and he said, so sit. And he had been following me, and I didn't know.
See, that's
I didn't
the thing.
know.
Yes.
I didn't know that he had been following me. I didn't know.
You never know what's going on and
know.
who's peeping you. I say that all the time.
Yeah, you never know.
know.
And I didn't know that he also understood how political I am and how enraged I am with our current
situation,
state.
government, yes, all that.
So, in his brilliance, he sat me down in front of everybody and asked me a question about Trump.
Really?
And like 20 minutes later,
because you gave.
after I did my full-on rant,
Yes.
and if anybody follows me on social media or not, it's like I will rant about politics and the state of the world and the state of the union, as they call it. And at the end of that, he was like, would you please come and just do this with us? And so Pray Tell was created for me.
In that moment, after we saw all of that.
And what he was doing was he was showing the creators and the writers and the producers that we have to write to his rage.
Ooh.
So if you notice, Pray Tell is fun in the ballroom, but in his regular life, it's very close to me. Just in terms of like how he moves through the world and the politics of it. And Pray Tell has a lot of rage. And they wrote to that for me, and I'm so grateful.
That's dope.
Yeah,
to
it's
have
amazing.
it custom created for you.
Yeah.
And you worked the heck out of it, got your awards for it, and it's just, you hear, like I said, you hear your name like everywhere now. So Pose is over. Now it's all about Black Mona Lisa.
Yes.
And in between that time, you've also shared things. It seems like you have even come more into yourself with that. Is that
it's true. You know, it's just, for me, it's the truth. Authenticity. I wrote a memoir, Untitled, Unprotected. Untitled is my first album. Unprotected is my memoir. And, you know, my goal with it is art has the power to heal trauma, like I said.
Yeah.
And it's a very healing tome. And and it set me free, and I hope it can set some other people free. You know, I'm HIV positive. I came out to the world with that in May 19th.
What made you feel comfortable to be able to share that after all these years?
Well, Pray Tell, first of all, playing Pray Tell. You know, I knew when I got that part that the character would be HIV positive, and I had been HIV positive since 2007, and I didn't share it with anybody.
Right.
I mean, a few close friends, my sister, but my mother didn't even know.
How did your mom not know?
Because I was, you know, because you know, growing up in the church and, you know, I didn't want the I told you so.
Yeah.
AIDS is God's punishment. You're an abomination. I didn't want the I told you so. I didn't want the statistic pity. I didn't need that. And
but you decided to come forward.
well, I decided to come forward because now I'm in the public eye. And I'm playing a character who dies of AIDS. The reason why I've become the person that I've become in the world is because I'm honest and I'm truthful, and people are attracted to that.
Right.
People are attracted to the fact that I always speak the truth. And what my publicist said, because I was going to wait until October when my book came out of 2021. And when my publicist heard in April, he was like, oh, or maybe it was March, we were talking about the year, and he's like, oh, no. You have to do this right now because your brand is truth and honesty. And if you die on television from AIDS in June and you don't tell the world that you're HIV positive till October, they will come after you. It's not fair, but the press will come after you and spin it as if you were not being truthful and honest.
Yeah.
So And it had been 14 years. You know, it was like, it's time.
Were you
And I
nervous?
need to set my, yes, I was very nervous. I wrote a song about it on the new Black Mona Lisa album. I'm not afraid, I'm not ashamed anymore.
Mm-hmm.
God, how freeing that is. That was the only thing left. And you know, we live in a space of gotcha.
Yeah.
As fast as you rise,
You know.
after 30 years, they can't wait to,
Crush you down.
whoever they is,
Yeah.
they can't wait, right? And so I took the wind out of that by
'Cause
saying
you
it
owned
myself.
Yes.
So that's the only gotcha that there would have been, is for somebody to find out I was HIV positive. Yes, I am. This is what HIV looks like now. We are living, and not just living, but thriving. Thriving.
Did you have, out of that sharing, people contact you and say, hey, listen, I'm in the same situation,
Yeah.
or maybe even
Still,
friends,
every
strangers?
day.
Really?
Still, every
so
day.
that gives you another level of not just authenticity, but relatability.
And you know what's really interesting and really upsetting is that there's so much shame around it.
Even now?
Yes. There's so much shame and stigma around it that I had close friends, several, who were living with HIV as well, and we didn't even tell each other.
Even within the community.
We didn't even tell each other.
Wow.
That's how much shame. So, Black Mona Lisa is the first time, you know, now I get to come back into the mainstream music industry on my own terms.
And be fully Billy Porter.
So I wrote this whole album, all but one song, with different people. And it's exactly what I want to say to the world, and musically how I want to say it. I call it my magnum opus. It's a celebration of life, of love, joy, hope, peace. That's what the concert's gonna be. I just wanna give the world a big bear hug.
Aw.
We've been going through so much.
So much.
You know, and it's like we're back out. We need to look each other in the face. We need to do this again.
Touch, hold
We
hands.
need to touch again. We need to hug again. We need to
need to
remind.
party again
We
and
need
just
to party again.
have
We need to
life.
remind each other of our collective humanity again.
Absolutely.
The disconnection has been, we've been in the house. So we get desensitized to the human being that's in all of us, the humanity that's in all of us. So, and that's what Black Mona Lisa's about, honey. Black Mona Lisa, the tour.
The tour, 25 cities taking over. You're going to have a band. You're going to have imagery.
I'm going to have a band. I'm
You're
going to have
gonna
a
be
band.
talking.
I'm going to have imagery. Yes, I'm working on it all. It's all still in,
I love it.
you know, I don't know specifically. I know what I want.
Uh-huh.
And now I'm trying to figure out how
And
to
the outfits. What are we?
I'm
what
gonna have some
What
fit
are you
outs.
envisioning for these outfits?
Well, Ty Hunter, my stylist,
Uh-huh.
who came on over to me from Beyonce. You know, he was Beyonce's and that whole crew's first stylist up until a few years ago. And you know, we're working on it.
Okay.
I'm actually seeing sketches this afternoon.
Nice. Got to give the approval. Want this,
Yes.
want that. Billy, thank you so much for coming and stopping by.
Thank you. Baby Was a Dancer is out.
Baby Was a Dancer, and of course the music. You will be dancing when you hear
Yes.
it. You will
Yes.
be
Go
dancing.
stream it.
And we're working on that EGOT, because
Yes.
all we need now is the Oscar.
Yes, all we
Come
need.
on.
I know.
I love
I'm
it.
working on it, Deja.
All right, I can't wait to see whatever comes next. And don't forget to check out Billy's single, Baby Is a Dancer, the album.
Was a
Black
dancer.
Baby was. She was.
Yes.
She was a dancer. Baby Was a Dancer, the tour. And what's up for the rest of this year?
Well, let me just get through this tour first. It's 25 cities in 5 weeks.
Take your vitamin C.
Let me get through that.
Drink some orange juice.
Thank God I did 8 shows a week for 30 years. The stamina is in my body.
You were built for this.
So, let me get through that and then I'll let you know.
All right. Thank you so much for stopping by, Billy.
Thanks for having me.
This is how we do on the Deja Vu Show.